Here. Okay, so you need to click that to let you know that's happening. So Joyce Feustel, reintroduced myself especially for the recording, founder of Boomer Social Media Tutor. I got the idea for this business, as many of you know, back in 2010 when a manager of mine observed that I, among all the people of our inside sales team, it was enrollment advisors, but functionally we were salespeople. I was the one who did the best job at chatting up our brand new social media. Remember back in 2010 when this was like a frontier? You know, were you on Facebook? Were you on LinkedIn? Were you on Twitter? By 2010, I had gotten my arms more or less around LinkedIn and around Facebook, though I wasn't on Twitter. Yet I was so excited to get to talk to my clientele about it that it just poured through. My energy, enthusiasm for it meant that I, month after month, would lead the pack of people because they would pay us even $5 for every social media follow. And my manager was so rather struck by the fact that I, at 61 years old back then, of course, now 72, he was 35 and I'm the age of his parents. And he's like, "What? Joyce, look at you go." By the third month of having this, when I was consistently leading that incentive pack and more people were getting involved in our college's social media than anybody else's kind of book of business, he said to me, "Hey, have you ever thought of helping other people, especially in your baby boomer generation, to understand social media like you do?" So many of you heard, but with, like Lori would know, this is your origin story. Christine, you relate to this. That's how I got to be sitting here today, is because of a manager who loved me, I'll say just directly, that could see that I had a lot in me that I could share with my contemporaries. So I'm very grateful to him. And then I went full time into this business 8 years ago in the spring of 13. So here we are today, and the meetup group's been around about four years. I'm going to go directly to sharing my screen, and if you want to put questions in the chat, that's also fine, but we'll save them to when we get to approximately 2:45, and we will end by 3 o'clock for sure. Just with a thumbs up, do people see my screen, or just unmute for a minute? Okay, there you go, Sophie, thank you. I can see you, I see a few people. So here we are in our home screen. I'm going to take us right away, of course, over to the profile. The other way, besides going, this is a shortcut here, but you can always go, of course, here by clicking on the arrow under your picture. And now here we are at the profile. The first thing I want to tell you about, the first two things, actually, I can't even show you on the computer because they have to be done on the app, on your LinkedIn app. And one has to do with what's called, I'm going to get the proper term here, a cover story. So if you go to you can feel free to do that. Pull out your phone, if you have the app on your phone, and go to your own profile, click on your picture, and it says add cover story. Add cover story. And I'm going to show you an example of somebody who's done that. And Linda, you've already heard this, so we'll just go ahead and show it. Notice she has an orange rim around the circle where our picture is, so just listen up. It's just 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Clarine Mitchell, owner of TCM Communications. My business is focused on empowering success-driven entrepreneurs, corporate executives, and others to effectively leverage LinkedIn to generate quality results. I change the trajectory of businesses and lives one LinkedIn profile at a time. So if you want to get results from LinkedIn, you want to learn how to shine online, I can help you do that.
Isn't that slick, ladies and gentlemen? I think so. So I'm going to work at it. I've been stalling all summer because I'd hurt my wrist, and now I think I look decent enough to do a little video. But another thing you can do from your app is this one. Watch this.
Hi, thank you for visiting my LinkedIn profile. My first name is properly pronounced Clarine.
See, so if you have a tricky first name or last name or both, see, you've got about 10 seconds or so, and you can do that through, again, the app. So now back to, one more thing I want to show you that Clarine has done is called Creator Mode. So let me show you what that looks like. Notice here below her headline, and we'll get into that in the main presentation, she has 5 subject areas that when it says talks about, that basically means she post content on these topics. Also, it tells us how many followers she has, not how many connections exactly. And the other thing she has, because of flipping into creator mode, is that her featured section and your activity section are higher than her about. Because normally the about would flow, and you'll see this in mine, would go first, and then activity, and I believe, and then feature. We'll see that here in a minute. And then also under activity, there's a couple more of these, I'll call them thumbnails, that show up. Normally there's 4 of them. And who would be a person who would want to follow suit for Clarine? It would be somebody that posted quite often on LinkedIn. I mean, Lori Dubois, Marie Leslie, the two of you in particular come to mind because you do a lot of posting. Now, there is a downside, in my opinion. That's why I haven't gone this route. Because if you would just, for the heck of it, go over and look up Clarine Mitchell on your LinkedIn, you will see a button that says follow. Follow. It won't say connect. Even if you have a shared connection, it won't say connect. And even if you go over here and you find the connect button, it will still say something like, well, Clarine prefers to be followed. And you really shouldn't connect on LinkedIn with people you don't know anyway. You're like, well, la-di-da on LinkedIn. So here's what I say. Who are my people? They're not Clarine's people. My people are people, as I said earlier, 55 and up, who struggle a bit with LinkedIn. So the last thing I want to do is confuse them, to have them say, well, how am I going to connect with Joyce? Oh no, this says I can only follow her. I was really hoping we could connect. I don't want that little chatter going on in their head. So even though I do a lot of content posting on LinkedIn, that's why I haven't gone with creator mode. If it appeals to you, here's how you do it. So you go down to this little dashboard section and you see this creator mode, and that's how you see. If you click on it, then you click on next. See, LinkedIn will actually give you 5 topics they perceive that you post on a lot. But you don't have to. You don't have to use these. You can, remove some and put your own in. But you can have a limit of 5. And then the other thing I might mention, and I don't really have a slide on this or anything, but here's where you can see how many people have viewed your profile. And I'd really love it for you to view my profile. It'll stroke my ego if nothing else. But and then that means they looked you up by name on LinkedIn. Or search appearances. See, so search appearances, these people had a term. See down here, you don't see these words, I think, unless you have a paid account. But they were looking for coaches, social media specialists, trainers, curators. And what do they do for a living? This part I think you would see in yours, what they do for a living and then the kinds of places where they work. But you aren't going to know who these people are. However, the people that looked you up, here, this crowd, no, here it's gone down a little bit since last week, but this is where I broke my wrist. You see this, here's the surgery for those who've been tracking with me that know me as friend. And see, I kind of drop right down low. But anyway, so here, if you pay LinkedIn, even $30 a month, like maybe Linda might as a job seeker, you're going to see who's looked at you over the last 90 days, which is pretty handy. But this, you can see, and when you are active on LinkedIn, posting more or looking other people up, then they're likely to look you up too. So I thought, and that's just kind of a quick aside from what I had in my actual presentation. Now, there was, one more thing I wanted to mention, or 2 more things, I'm sorry. One is that you can do post up to 3,000 characters now. I don't know if you'd want to do it that long. The previous limit was like 1,200. And the other thing that's kind of new on LinkedIn is, get this, how do you want to be listed? She, her, he, him, they, them, or customize. So this you can do from the LinkedIn computer, linkedin.com. So are there any quick questions on, because that was the, my lead material. Anybody just want to unmute and say, are you trying any of these? Or what are your thoughts on any one or more of these options?
You're talking about being a paid LinkedIn person.
No. Let me clarify. Percival, really, really good. I like how you said it like that. None of these, outside of looking at those people that looked at you, everything else here, and oh, seeing the names, the topics people search for. No, not the search part of that I was just talking about, but all that we just saw Clarine do, that she did here in hers, that has nothing to do with having a paid account. Just to clarify. Any other questions or observations?
Joyce, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you do the little video or the story, when you basically do the story like Clarine did, it looks like it acts just like, say, an Instagram story. If you see the orange thing that you can click on it, right? Do you think you had to click on that to, it didn't play automatically, right? You
No,
clicked on
no.
it. Okay. Do you
Right.
think that people are getting the fact that that's there and they need to click on it?
No,
You have
probably
any-
not.
But
Not the
eventually,
Not the average user. I think the more sophisticated user probably will look for it. But yeah, I've thought of that. Like, how would people know to do
well,
that?
they'll eventually, I think they'll know, but I'm also wondering, would it be stupid to put somewhere in your profile, click on my picture? You know what I mean? Like tell
Well,
people?
heck, you could theoretically put it in your headline.
That's why I wonder if that would be a dumb thing. Eventually, maybe you could take it out if people were
Yeah,
getting.
you could do it temporarily.
I think they're trying. This is just a guess, but that's how Instagram works.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you have a new story, that ring highlights around your picture. So I think they're probably banking on some of that shared UI experience.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
people, right. That's a good point, Joe. So people, oh, look at that, an orange circle. Maybe there's something I should look at. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Any other comments, experiences? Yeah.
Yes, Joyce, did you say, I'm just making sure that I understood correctly, that once you do that, the creator mode and form that story, that people can no longer connect with you, they can only follow you?
Right, and let me clarify, the story is separate from creator mode. These are two distinct, changes to make to your profile. Yes, that's the way it appears to me. That let me put this another way. If I were like you and I were probably connected on LinkedIn, right?
Yes,
So, okay.
I think
So
so.
let's do Percival. Maybe Percival and I don't know each other. Percival Phillips. Okay. There you are, right, Percival?
You're connected.
Okay, now. Oh, we're connected. Dang. So I got to find somebody I don't know so well. Maybe Misako? What about you and me? Are we connected? Oh, yay. Okay, we got an example. So this is what people with, now, let me clarify. She's a second level from me, meaning there's at least these 10 people, they're all connected to Misako and they're all connected to me. So anytime you have second level, it's going to say connect, unless, Marcia, unless they are on creator mode, and it would say follow. It would say follow, okay? Now, this will also happen to you when you look at people who are third level away, meaning they're like these would be like Misako's other people who they're not connected to me. Then you have to go over into this more box, and then you're going to see connect. But anytime you see connect, you're not going to see more, but you will. To finish my point is, even though LinkedIn gives you these messages, oh, Clarine just wants to be followed, whatever, you still can click on connect and that invite will go through. So you override what LinkedIn says.
I tend to go to the more anyway, because I don't like people sending me the lazy LinkedIn message that just connect because they press the button. I like to get that personal note so that I know why they want to connect with me. And I actually send notes back to people who don't give me, who don't tell me why they want to connect oftentimes.
I know, yeah, actually.
So that
let's actually just jump over that. That's a really good point. In fact, let's just talk about that. So here's like a guy, I've already written to him, but I'll just write to John. Here, I just got this right before our class started. And there again, there's another. So he's written to me a little note. But let's see what he had to say. No, wait, he has not written me a note. I'm sorry.
Right.
So that said message because I have a paid account, but watch carefully. I can write to John. See, watch this. John, I can say, Thanks for the invite, John. John. What prompted you to reach out? Look at you shaking your head, Marcia. To me, I call this my upper Midwest, Wisconsin's where I'm from. You'll catch that if I say Wisconsin, like that, elaborated, because it's direct and it's hopefully nice. That's the point here. Now, I may or may not hear back from John. I think sometimes I'm going to make a generalization. Joe, others here kind of hear me out on this, that maybe sometimes younger people don't care so much about that note, like you care about, Marcia, that I care about. And if they treat it like Instagram, Twitter, or even Facebook, you can't write notes on those, right? There's no functionality. There's no functionality. So I'll see what he has to say. But this dude, I couldn't have scripted this better. Ever been told, I wish there was a book. A book takes your message to amazing things the world needs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, right? Look at you shaking your head, Lori. Okay, you know what I'm going to do with this guy? I am just going to block him.
Block them. Yes.
What the heck? As far as I'm concerned, I don't ever need to hear from Steve again.
Yes.
Because if I just ignored him 6 months from now, I could somehow in his probably automated system show up again and get another invite from him. I'm willing to give him a chance. Harry, I'm going to give him a chance and see what happens. Does that make sense, folks? So you see how it says see all to, or if there's only one there, we'll say manage. But hopefully you can see this is where you go to write these little notes right over here. I just wanted to make sure you knew about that. Okay, so I'm going to go back.
Question.
Yes.
If you get blocked multiple times, do you get in trouble with LinkedIn?
No, only if, let's say, let me just do this on one of these two dudes. I'll just say Harry. He's not a bad guy. But let me watch this. Watch carefully. If I ignore him, I think should work. See right there? Watch carefully. I don't know Harry. That's called IDK. If they get too many of those, their account can be actually put into like LinkedIn jail, sort of. It will be not deactivated, it'll be stopped, or I forget the proper term. It happened to a friend of mine. And finally she worked it out with him. She just was she was just reaching out to too many people she didn't know. So people started doing this to her. So I never do that to somebody. Because I'm not that mean-spirited, I guess, is one way to think about it. I'd rather just block him. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
And then really quick on this, because I know we got a lot more to cover. If you ever block someone and later they show up in your life and they seem like a nice person, and especially if they were introduced by somebody else and you're there on LinkedIn trying to find them and you can't, and you think this is really darn weird, and they might say to you, well, maybe you blocked me. I'm like, this happened to me. I say, well, maybe I did. And there she is with my 289 other blocked people. I found her there and I unblocked her. So that was kind of awkward, but that's only happened once in 289 times. I'm just picking that number, sort of. That's not too bad. And
So
they're
how
not
did you
notified.
unblock her?
What's that?
How did you unblock?
Okay, I went to my settings. Now this is like not something I do every day, so might take me a minute. But I don't think it's in data, or maybe it is. Account preferences. There's a place where it lists all your blocked people.
Oh,
That's unfollowed. Crap. Excuse my language. But there's a place where you can find all of your blocked. There it is. There it is. Hopefully none of you are on this list. Right? So what do I have now? 411. I keep going up. Now see, I just unblock them, Marcia. See?
right.
Okay, cool. We should go back to our regularly scheduled program here. All right, but I think hopefully that was helpful. So now I just wanted to cover a few other things here at the top of the profile. Here, add any credentials that you may have. So like life coaches there, if you have a credential, like you, Wendy, or Christine, or any of you have something, or maybe you have an MBA, like Joe, you don't necessarily want to talk about your like professional engineering anymore, but if you're still in that field, you'd have like PE, things like that. And so that's what you could add here. If you were married, divorced, or like Laura, you maybe used to have a name a long time ago, different than Dubois, or maybe Dubois is like your maiden name, your first marriage. I don't know. I never thought to ask you, but you could put that in there. Okay, thank you. We just closed both doors. And then here is where you can have I think we talked about that before already. So the former name, etc. Now the headline, a year ago this month, LinkedIn went from 120 characters to 220. That's quite a bit more that you can have who you work with, job seekers, business owners. What do I know about? Maybe not quite as good as Wendy at Baby Boomers Specialist, but that's who my clientele predominantly are. And then what do I do for them? And there's my little tagline. And then I use what's called the pipe, P-I-P-E, key, K-E-Y. Is if you hold down shift and then hit your the backward slash. I gotta go this way. The backward slash. Just look on your keyboard. And I can help you with that offline. Here's another thing that's occasionally people will inadvertently uncheck this box. Not this one, I mean the education box. And then wherever they went to college, even for a year or two, won't display. And the final thing in this section is, let's say you live in Arvada, like those of people who know the metro, or a suburb of wherever you are, your suburb, Aurora, right, Marion, and Toronto, but you'd rather say like Toronto metropolitan area or Denver metro area. So that's where I would suggest you do that rather than your own smaller town that's on the outskirts. Let's see. Okay, now I want to go to contact info. A lot of people, I'm going to stuff that people don't always pay attention to. The first thing here, which I know many of you see me talk about, is customizing your LinkedIn URL. That's what appears right up here at the top of your screen. So you can do that a couple ways. One way to do it just right from your profile is click on contact info. I'll do this again, pencil, and this is a hyperlink. So now we are very nicely over into a setting where we can adjust this so it isn't just like first name, last name, and a bunch of random letters and numbers. You can put in what you do, like Wendy, will go back to you, baby boomer expert or whatever it might be. Joe, money coach, Joe Maddox, money coach. So if you have a phrase, Lori Dubois, marketing troubadour, you could just even use your business name because 100 characters is a lot. It used to only be 30. And then now when I was doing this morning, I had somehow inadvertently gotten myself only LinkedIn members. This is not good because there's people like my own daughter who we're going to visit next week who get this, the one that graduated with Joe. She is not on LinkedIn. She's never had a need to have her own LinkedIn account, and I'm not going to push her to have it. She's worked in nonprofits. Now she's a home mom for a while, going back to school, so she's not on LinkedIn. So Jane should still be able to access people on LinkedIn. I know she's told me she's looked people up. You can do that. Make sure your profile is available to anybody in a Google search or any kind of search, and all these should be green. Okay, so that's enough of a lecture on that one. And then the rest of this, here, let's say you have a meetup group, or like Lori, I don't know how much you'd maybe, if your Facebook group is kind of more by invite, you maybe necessarily wouldn't want to put it up there. But obviously a website like this, you want to have, and if you click on other, then you have the name of it, the exact name of your entity. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. So meetup, so I have here, simplify your social media. There's a character limit there. And then my Facebook business page. I'd like to suggest that people look at getting a Google Voice number. Google Voice number can be connected to your personal cell number, and that way you're not giving out that personal number. So if you feel like you'd like to have your connections have your phone number, maybe you don't want any phone number here in this field. But if you want to put a number in, consider getting Google Voice. It is free. And finally, your email. Your business owners, for the most part here, you would want your email that's for your business to be this displaying email that your connections see. Also that you get all your LinkedIn emails come to that address. So if you don't have it on there, you need to, either if you haven't, you have to add it to your LinkedIn account if you haven't, and then make it what's called primary. So again, I can go over the nitty gritty of this because time is limited. If people want to have a free 30-minute session with me, I did put that link into the chat. Okay, I'm skipping over providing services just because of time. But again, I can talk with you about that because it takes longer. It is newer, so maybe I should go back up to it. I'm sorry. Let's go back up to look at that one more time. Providing services can be found here where you click on find it open to. It isn't just for people looking for work. If you hadn't populated it, it will show down here, do you want to list providing services? And they've actually expanded on this from when they first introduced it. So here I can list up to 10 different services. They have to be in LinkedIn's kind of dictionary of words though. And then get this is what's new, though 500 characters doesn't take you long. You can have kind of a mini about section. You know how on your website you have a services tab? This is really just like the gist of it, maybe not elaborated, because you can do that later in your profile. But I find this rather nifty. And it's another SEO opportunity, search engine optimization. And then you can even ask people for reviews. Like there's Chris, you bug him, will you, Marie? Because I asked him like an extra thing to do. He probably's got too much going on this month. I know he's busy. So at any rate, again, I can go into this more detail with you, but I think it's neat. Another way to talk about yourself that you can get a little more leverage in searches. Now, the about section is so important. I would say in order of importance, your picture, your headline, and your about section. To some extent, the background photo too, but I think really where you can brand yourself. So I've decided to go right up front and center by putting this information up at the top. It may look a little salesy. If it feels salesy, don't do it. But it'd be above the fold, to use an old term in newspapers. It's above the see more. So people can see it like easy peasy, even before they've clicked on see more to open up the whole about. The other thing I want to show you is really gear what you write to your reader. So don't go into I do this and I do that and I graduated from this college. We don't give a rip. If you handle it that way, you want to make it more how you can solve their problem, what you can do for them. And I'm huge for business owners to avoid the use of a third person voice unless you're some hotshot attorney or something. Maybe I can let them use that or whatever, CPA or somebody. But I think for most of us, we want to tell the story. Like this is one of Lori's specialties and Christine's specialties. And when you have first and second person I, you, that lends itself to telling a story about you in the context of your current career, your current business, and how you got there. So you decide how you want to change that out. Like when I worked with Clarine, she had me starting almost from square one. And that's what she suggested, and I changed it a little bit from there. But I still told the same story I told you at the top of the hour, of the top of this presentation, about how I got to be in the work that I'm doing. And here, testimonials from clients, these are good places to have. Like Lori would be a great person to do what I almost call like a character reference. She and Marie, they've known me for years and years and years. And they could speak to kind of the whole of Joyce, just to give examples. These happen to be two clients of mine. And I use them in particular because she is this classic feminine language. If you ask me, I'm going to make a little generalization here. And he is more, a sales guy, more, we needed this, and she sized it up, and sure enough, we got it done, So they're different voices, and I thought they were kind of complementary in a way. And they both happen to be recommendations. But you know what, folks? Even if you don't have a recommendation from someone, maybe they're like my daughter, not even on LinkedIn, or they just don't want to bother to write it for you, you can get a little email from them, get their okay, and then just put it up there. Just type it in, put it at the bottom. You have 2,600 characters. There's no reason you can't add it, again, with their blessing. But don't have something that's too long in your about if you feel your reader really wants something more short and sweet. So don't necessarily think it has to be as long as mine. Now here's the featured section. Anytime you post things on LinkedIn, you could feature them. You could feature a link to a landing page. Like for example, here is a link to my homepage of my website. So how it works is you click on the plus, and here are posts that, like say, this is a post I just wrote today about a meeting coming up. I might put that up just briefly, just because I want to get some more eyeballs on it. But then I think obviously I'll take it down after Thursday. Here is a great experience I had with this Bonnie Fiore, so I read about that. So again, so you can have links, articles, they're longer than posts typically. The links like to the land, and then media. Say you have some PowerPoint, I'm looking to give you life coaches here, with like 5 reasons that people really get stuck in the want to have some help in getting pivoted. So it could be more informational than necessarily salesy. So you can pull it up. Joe, I could see you doing that in your world in terms of maybe asking some key questions in a really simple PowerPoint. And how you add this section, in case you're like, Joyce, I've never heard of it, you go up to add section, see here? And you just, by the time you populate even one of these, then it always will stay populated on your profile. But you can turn off these featured, you can move them around, but I wanted to make sure that you knew about them, especially those of you that might want to go into that creator mode, because featured will be higher on there. I'm going to move down now to the experience section. This here, I have a suggestion. People who have like, okay, who would be an example? Maybe Marianne and some others here that have, Patricia Moore, you're a great example. So, and you and I maybe talked about this. So you have your, say, overarching company name, and then you have your different, let's call them offerings. So Patricia is a photographer, that's one offering. Patricia is a writer, that's a separate but related offering. So she can kind of tuck these under the overarching name, and then almost looks like you get advanced in corporate world. And the nice thing is, see, you get up to 2,000 characters, folks, for each of these position descriptions. So now you have enough, and you could even add, testimonials, like I just did here as well, that are specific to this particular offering. So think about doing that in your world. Also, think about using up to 100 characters, even in your past jobs. You don't have to be stuck like maybe more like on a resume where you'd have to say, if you were the office administrator, that's all you could say. But let's say, Marcia, when you were office administrator, you were like when I was the executive secretary at my church, I was the marketing director. I was a director of customer service. I was a lot of things beyond being, I guess my title was administrative assistant. So you see, I think many of us have had jobs where we've had really a lot of different hats that we wore, so we can add those in there. And so probably for most of you, you don't have to worry about going back too far in time. If there's stuff even from the 80s, who knows, 70s, that's relevant, more power to you. But I would like to encourage you to list volunteer work. So say you're on the board of, Jane DeLong. She is education chair. See, for the SCORE, that Service Corps of Retired Executives, I believe, right, Jane? So she could list herself here, even if it was, let's say, an unpaid capacity, but she's got a leadership role. Now that gives great visibility to SCORE, in my case, to the Strategic Trusted Advisor Roundtable. I'm on their board. And also, get this, folks, people can recommend you. They can recommend you when you list that activity in your experience, but not if you only list it under volunteering. So I just want to mention that. Then you can also, by the way, one more thing I want to show you here, which I haven't done as well as I could in some, here's this actual meetup. So I have it now listed as one of my offerings. And then I included the cover photo I have. See, I just actually have the link. So here we would go. If I want to go here, this is the picture. I don't have a link to the meetup group, which I think that might be more likely. I should have done that. Now that I look at it, I just have the picture. So these little thumbnails, see, they're a lot smaller than featured, right? That's all we used to have, but you can have that under, you can have links, and you can have like a PowerPoint presentation, PDF, still photograph. You can do all those. Okay, going down to certifications, well, college, if you went, list it, but you don't have to put your year, hallelujah, right? See, every other place you got to put your darn year in, so pesky. But here you can just be silent. You just have it like year, like, so it doesn't matter when you went to college, unless it is relevant for some reason. And then any certifications, again, we'll look at the life coaches. They may have a certification. There's other ones in you, I'm trying to think of within this group. Marion, you've got some. Yeah, those are ones that you could list. Then volunteer experience. One thing you can do here, look at this. In your experience section, you can only move around sections if you're currently doing them. However, in volunteer, that's where I met you. Well, Laura, I originally met you, when you and Emily presented at that group on Saturdays at that community center in Wash Park neighborhood. But then I really got to know Lori through the Women's Chamber of Commerce. Now, see how this is still present, but for a business person, this is going to be more relevant than probably my Toastmasters. So that's why, so you just take this baby and go, choo, 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 you just drag and drop that. Also, speaking of Toastmasters, if you, like me, have given your life practically to an organization and really, you did it out of love and dedication, you don't have to list every single darn position you held with them. That could overwhelm your profile. So I suggest you consolidate these roles and have them under just one listing. Now, skills. When you get into your skills section, especially if you haven't been there for a while, you might have people who've endorsed you for a skill, who validated basically, yep, Percival does that skill. Then you want to decide, do I want to add it to my profile or not? Because maybe you've gone in a different direction. And yeah, sure, you have that skill, but that doesn't mean you need to announce it here in this skills section. So I just want to make sure you know that. Also, you should know that these skills here are in order of the number of people who've endorsed you. So if you have a skill, again, maybe you're pivoting, going back to the work, like say Elan, you'd be a good example there. So you have skills related to environmental work, and more would be more important to you than your ones with your teaching. So you would go and you'd add these skills if you didn't already do them, and then see how you can move these around. Like right now, I'll put small business, I'll just keep it simple, I'll replace it with entrepreneurship, just so you can see it all together. But you aren't removing, I'm not erasing that skill. I'm just moving it down to the section where LinkedIn would kind of group it. And you have up to 50 skills. If you want to get more endorsements, there's not a functionality to ask for people to endorse you, but you can just send them an email and tell them which, including your LinkedIn URL, that at the top of your page there, at the top of your profile, and ask them to endorse you for certain skills. And certainly endorsements are not nearly as important as recommendations. I have a lot of them because I ask a lot, especially I do as, those volunteer, like Vezi, I did a critique of hers for no charge, much like I'm offering you all today. And so I think, well, just to be fair, like, would you please write me a recommendation? So she did. But notice, folks, that I've given more than I have received. And that's my approach to life. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's very important to give people recommendations. And to ask for them, you can either do it from this field, see here, ask for a recommendation. Let's say I was going to ask Lori, here's an idea, Lori. Maybe I've never asked you to do this. So our relationship really is, we're kind of in the same group. We'll say it's this group, right? So what's my position at the time? I'm the, where is this here? Specializing boomers. Okay, founder. Why can't I see it here?
You had it, go down to.
Where?
Up one.
There it is. There it is. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's the meetup. Thank you. So now I go here. So I picked the entity that I've listed in experience that she's familiar with my work, right? So now we've got that part done. And then if she wasn't sitting right here, I would write her a little note, but I'll just send that off to her. Do you see how that works now? Now, Lori may have already endorsed me, or recommended me for kind of my overarching position. This one, probably this one here, not the LinkedIn trainer maybe, but maybe this one. So you can't do more than one recommendation for the same position. But if you have different positions, people can write you a recommendation for each position, theoretically, right?
Good to know.
Yeah, or they could update it. Maybe Lori never been my client. She's known me for years, but I really do need Joyce's services. Well, now you would really revise your recommendation. And when you send these requests out, let me just go and do one more to show you how to do this. When you when you send it out, so say I was going to ask Marie. So I'll go to Marie Leslie and I'll go and ask her. And what I would do is I would, see, it's the same, you get to the same screen, right? I would email that person I would email them because you see, people don't hang out on LinkedIn, except for maybe a few of us in this room, very often. So they're going to miss it. It's going to come up in their messaging. You need to give them a heads up that you sent that recommendation. Now, one more thing I want to cover, because we actually already covered most of the back end of this stuff, except for one topic. What about accomplishments? Have you heard? I know some of you know about them, but accomplishments can be found where we found featured if you haven't added them. And here we go. Publications. Some newsletter you wrote for, possibly some blog post, you were the guest blogger on somebody else's blog. Maybe you have a patent, who knows? Courses, these are really good for your professional development courses. Projects, maybe a fundraiser, or just something you did collaboratively. I'll show you a couple of mine. Honors and awards, these could be not even work related. Languages you speak, test scores, maybe. Organizations you're in or used to be in. So just to show you how these can look for me, here we go. Okay, so here whoopsie. Okay, here's the courses I took to get my certification in social media from Colorado Free University. So these don't have to be academic courses. In fact, those really would be better listed under education. If you took some courses at, say, a local community college, just list yourself as going there. Again, don't put in the years or anything, but here you can just list these one-offs that you took a particular course. Organizations, you can list ones you used to be with. So these could be cross-listed with volunteers. You don't, probably overlist myself here, but they could just be ones where you're a member, like with the West Metro Chamber. I've not done too much, but now I just got accepted into their leadership class starting this month. I'm so excited, hallelujah. And so that would be something I would list as even possibly a separate entity, or listed as a project maybe. And projects, see, they're cool because then you're you drop some names. You've done some projects with people, maybe they're well known, like Judy is in the senior services community here in the Denver area. Bob is a very well-known Rotarian and realtor here in Denver, one of my early clients. So see how when you do a project, you can add people to your group of people that did the project. You just have to be connected on LinkedIn, but you don't need their permission. And even honors and awards. Like because I put a lot of blood, sweat, and sometimes tears, into Toastmasters, I was named the Toastmaster of the Year out of, say, 3,000 Toastmasters back in 08, 09. I'm very proud of that award. And I did a lot of speaking and leadership, so I achieved this award. But probably the award I'm most proud of is when I was a young woman in college and did a lot of service work and was named one of the top 6 graduates of a class of 6,000 people. And, honored at a luncheon and given a lifetime membership to my alumni association and bragging rights or something. But, here you do have to put in the year. So if you're age sensitive, don't talk about stuff from when you were a kid or whatever, decades ago. Now, one more thing I want to show you, and then we'll go to questions. Notifications. Okay, so we already talked about connections. So what you want to do is you want to notice if somebody, like here, Ann, because I made her do this actually, my daughter, I said, Annie, comment on this. I need traction. So here she commented, this is a great group. So I'm going to, just like Facebook or Instagram, I'm not going to let that comment go unresponded to. I'm going to acknowledge it, right? So that's pretty straightforward, just so you know. And also I could have tagged her. And one way to get more traction with this, let me just show you. If I were to actually then gone back here, it will be more likely her people could see this, like this, and Boystall. And I could also just go back up. I don't have to, you can do that. Just go back up one space so I don't have to use her last name. But it still will, that will potentially ping then her people that she's connected to on LinkedIn. So that's something you definitely want to track on. Also, track on when people might take me a while. I saw it this morning. People get a new job. You can compliment them. You can do it privately. You can do it publicly. Here it is. Okay, Mark Smith. And so Mark has this new position. So I could go here with his other well-wishers, and then other people could see. This is like commenting on somebody's post. so they could see this. Or I could just write on congrats and write them a little private note. You know, just like a direct, really is a message, it's internal messaging. Just like, again, you do direct message on Twitter, Instagram, or Messenger on Facebook. So, okay, I've covered most everything I wanted to cover. Are there questions that people have? Feel free just to unmute and ask. Or even commentary, things you're doing that you want to reinforce or say, no, Joyce, I do it this way.
Hi, Joyce.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Joyce. This is Patricia Moore. I
Okay.
am wondering, I kind of missed it, what you said under accomplishments. Is it okay to duplicate under accomplishments what you have in your work history?
Yes, I
Thank
think
you.
that's fine. I don't think it hurts. I think people skim these things. They aren't going to read them word for word. I don't have a trouble with that. Other questions? Did you have a question, Joe?
This is Joe. I've got a question about the post character length. Do you know if that's going to expand anytime soon? Have you heard anything about that?
Okay, I heard you, I think I missed the last part. The number of characters you can put into a post, like when we go here and we post, is
Not a lot.
3,000 characters. Is that what you were talking about?
Is it 3,000? I feel like it's considerably less. I try to repurpose content from Instagram and Facebook, and I always have to hack it down substantially.
I personally would wonder why someone would need 3,000 characters for a post. I would keep it much shorter. Is that your point, Joe? I'm sorry, I got a little coughing fit here.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had any insight into that being longer, because I think your hashtags take up.
Yeah, hashtag them, 3 to 5 hashtags is pretty common on LinkedIn. That makes sense. Here's just a post I put up this morning. I'm trying to think of one that the one I just did about ABNG. This is where I met Joe. So no, that's not what I wanted. I'm sorry. I'm going to go to my activity, not my featured, my activity. So if it's like something like this particular post about this meeting that's on Thursday, let's see, here, I'll go. This is where I find my post. When I wrote it, it's, okay, what is that? 4 short paragraphs. I think that's probably pretty common, Joe. I've seen them. I don't know if Lori or Marie or others want to weigh in on this that have been posting for a while on LinkedIn and know the other sites. Do you ladies have any thoughts about length of post on?
Well, my short answer is always it needs to be as long as it needs to be, which is not really an answer. But on LinkedIn, I'd certainly say do a shorter post, but link it to something longer. Or if you have something longer, put it as an article on LinkedIn instead of a post.
Yeah.
And then put it in your featured.
Yes. Let me just show you what she's talking about. So if I'm going to go down to my most recent blog post. Okay. Remember I was talking about generosity of spirit. All right. So this is what Lori's talking about. So here's my setup for it. And then we go over here and we're going to see my 500-word blog post. And it's good. You get them over to your website. We all want that, right? So this is what she's suggesting is you have the shorter post, but take them somewhere. And then the other thing is, let me get to this. I'll go back. Actually, maybe I just need to go back up to articles here. So an article, which I haven't done for a while, it's not just my fault, maybe that's it. But here's an article. Let me just show you how it displays a little differently. And there's no limit, sorry, not the best picture in the world. There's no limit on length in articles. And the cool thing about articles, and Joe, I could actually see you writing this because you have a lot of interesting information you could be sharing. So you have a picture, then the headline, and then look at this. See, you can have layout, you can have formatting. You have like headings and subheadings, and you can have, bold and italic, and you could, certainly add more visual elements, links to outside hit places, read more at this particular influencer's piece. So it's more like a blog. So I have actually taken former blog posts, and Lori's always suggesting this, and repurposed them into an article on LinkedIn. And articles are finally getting, I would say, a little more traction than they were at one point. When Microsoft bought LinkedIn in 2017, the viewership of articles just plummeted. And that's when I started probably not to do them as much. But now it seemed to have picked up again. Articles are helpful. They're more like a mini white paper. Other questions or observations? People might have.
Just makes me think that we have to keep paying attention because they keep changing things. And in reality, all the platforms seem to be getting more like each other, which
There's
in
a
a
lot-
way
yes.
is easier.
Yes, I would really agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. You know, that LinkedIn, like the reaction features. You know how Facebook started those beyond the like with the love and all. And they're not identical on LinkedIn, but the concept is similar. Speaking of which, if you're going to respond to somebody, do a reaction, not just a like. And then add a comment that has a point of view. Don't just say, oh, good idea, you know. Like, wow, that was fascinating. And another thing I thought about when I read it was this other idea. So not to counteract or diminish that original person who posted, but to add another, you know, just another thought that you think might be of value. Yeah, go ahead, Patricia. Finland, yeah.
Do you cross post, use Hootsuite or one of those other cross posters, or do you post separately on every?
Yeah, I know like Marie uses that and maybe Lori does. I post, no, I guess short answer is no. I just do it by hand.
Okay.
And I don't post that much on Facebook. You know, I probably should post more. I mean, I kind of, I do take my blog posts over there. And once in a while, I'll get going, on Facebook now, which is a whole nother, deal. You can connect your Instagram with your Facebook. We can talk about that, maybe later in the year or first of next year. So I will do that occasionally because there's a functionality for you to post on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. But I mostly hang out on LinkedIn anyway. That's the vast majority of my clients.
Oh, interesting.
Other questions, observations? What's up with you? I want to, before I forget, talk about next month's presentation, but I want to catch any questions before I stop the recording. So maybe we're good, because I don't have to keep doing that recording. Maybe I can stop the recording. Okay. So next month, we're going to have a really awesome speaker, Rocio Perez, who is amazing. She's an author, leader, superb speaker. She spoke to one of my other groups in May, and she's going to talk big picture, your overall digital presence, 5 keys to that. That's our September program. That's September 14th. And also looking ahead, we have one on Instagram stories and Facebook stories, because those are something I should have even referenced. That LinkedIn has stories, but I didn't really go into it because I don't know enough about it, I'll be honest. So stories, I'm really interested to see what Monica is going to share on that. And then some people here know, is this Marissa or Marissa Huston? Am I saying that right? Lori, do you know?
Marissa Houston, I think.
Yeah. She has an amazing podcast called
Live Blissed Out.
Live Blissed Out. And she's the one that really got me going with podcasts last summer in June of 20. And she said, Joyce, you are a natural at podcasts. You ought to pursue this. And because of her, I've been on over 20 podcasts this year already. And she's going to come and talk about the whole podcast world, starting a podcast, what's that like, maybe being a guest on a podcast. So I think that'll be very enlightening. So I'm excited because I don't usually get this organized this far ahead to have my speakers really done through the rest of the year. In December, we do brainstorming. So anybody, I have one more thing I wanted to share. Thanks everybody for all you posted in the chat. You guys are awesome. What I wanted to say is I have a group that I'm part of. That's where I met Joe, and I'm going to put a link into it for Thursday. If you like to network with people that are from all different walks of business, like Russ, that's where I think I met you. The Alternative Business Network, you met Marie, I see you there a lot. Maybe there's others here in this room too. So it's a great place to go and meet all kinds of different business people. And we've gone back to in-person, which I know is a haul for you to drive, Marie. In Lakewood, also with the one in Highlands Ranch, so ours is Thursday. So if you know of anybody, it's free, just have to pay for lunch at the IHOP, and then we'll do some business brainstorming. I just thought I'd maybe bring it up here. Does anybody else have any other like events coming up or anything they'd like to add?
Joyce, I have a question.
Mhm.
You mentioned the IG and Facebook stories. When did you say that was?
That's October. That will be October the 12th.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Glad you asked. So we have an overview, digital overview of September, then the stories, and then the podcast. I really, really appreciate you coming and staying. I know some people had to cut out a little bit early. It's just such a delight for me to be here with you, even through Zoom. I just think there's a lot of sweet energy in this group, and it really matches my two the main things I like to do, which are to network and to teach. So, and I don't always get to teach or to bring people to you who are the teachers for that particular month. But today was special for me because I got to be, you know, the talent, as they say on television. Okay, well, have a good month and picture my flight going okay. We all got our COVID test this morning and pray to God nobody's got COVID in our family so we can go and see our wonderful, you know, other daughter and her little girl and just turning 6.
When are you going?
Monday morning. Yeah, then we come back Saturday. Yeah, it's the first that we've traveled out of state, me and Annie, for 2 years. So Bruce and I went to Telluride last summer, but that's all. He's traveled a little bit. Yeah.
Safe travels.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have fun.
Yeah,
Thank you,
she'll be
Joy.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for coming. Bye. Okay, there we go.